There exists a kind of strength that never bends, never breaks, and never bargains. The samurai of ancient Japan mastered the art of forging this power within themselves. You've heard the legends, warriors of impossible discipline, fearless courage, and an iron spirit that refused to shatter. The Japanese had a name for this, Hagane no Ishi, the will of steel. But here's the truth most people miss. A steel will is not something you're born with. It is forged, hammered, heated, cooled, and refined the same way real steel is made. The samurai spent centuries perfecting this process under Bushido, the way of the warrior. And it wasn't just about combat. It was about shaping a spirit so unbreakable that fear, pain, and even death itself could not bend it. A weak spirit collapses at the first challenge. A strong spirit fights until the final breath. Today, you're going to discover how these warriors built that unshakable will and how you can begin forging your own. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and comment, "I will build a will of steel." It shows your commitment to this transformation and helps me continue bringing content that strengthens your mind and your spirit. And to everyone who supports this channel, thank you. Your messages, your progress, and your stories of growth mean everything. I read as many comments as I can, and I truly want to help you elevate every part of your life. Now, let's continue. Chapter 1, The Collapse. This is the story of Marcus, a 34-year-old tech founder who built his startup from nothing. For 5 relentless years, he sacrificed everything, his relationships, his health, his sleep, all for the dream. And for a while, it worked. The company grew, investors poured in, the team expanded. Marcus was living the dream until the dream shattered. A bigger competitor released a product that instantly made his obsolete. 2 major investors pulled out. Team members quit, and for the first time, Marcus, the fixer, the leader, the eternal optimist, had no idea what to do. One night, alone in his office at 2 a.m., he realized a terrifying truth. He didn't know who he was without success. His identity had been built entirely on winning. So when failure struck, he crumbled. Anxiety took over. Insomnia followed. Panic attacks became daily. Within 2 weeks, he couldn't even make simple decisions. His mind had shut down. Something deep inside him had broken. That's when his mentor, James Watanabe, a half-Japanese, half-American investor who had trained for years in a traditional dojo, stepped in. Seeing Marcus fall apart, he told him, "You don't have a business problem. You have a spirit problem. You built your life on sand, and now the tide has shown you the truth." Marcus didn't understand, so James explained. The samurai believed their spirit had to be stronger than anything outside of them. They called it Hagane no Ishi, the will of steel, and they forged it through a system far deeper than success or achievements. This was the moment Marcus's real journey began. Chapter 2, The Principle of Fire. James led Marcus to a hidden Kenjutsu dojo buried beneath an old building downtown. Inside, waiting in that quiet basement, was Tanaka-sensei, a 70-year-old master and direct descendant of a samurai lineage. Tanaka didn't begin with technique. He began with steel. Holding an ancient katana, he asked Marcus, "Do you know how steel is made?" He explained, "Iron is weak. It bends, it breaks. But when you heat it to 1,500 degrees, add carbon, hammer it again and again, quench it in water, and repeat the process endlessly, something new is born. Steel, strong enough to cut through anything without shattering." Then he pointed at Marcus. "Right now, your spirit is iron, soft, easily deformed. True Bushido is the fire that turns iron into steel, and you cannot skip the fire." Marcus expected breathing techniques or mental hacks, something he could simply add to his routine. Tanaka laughed. You still think becoming stronger is about adding more. Bushido is not addition, it is subtraction, burning away everything weak until only the unbreakable remains. In the weeks that followed, Marcus learned that Bushido wasn't inspirational, it was transformational, a ruthless process of tearing down and rebuilding the self. The first lesson Tanaka taught was Shin, the principle of right spirit, and it began with the one thing Marcus had avoided his entire life, facing the fear he tried hardest to run from. Chapter 3: Facing the Void. What do you fear most? Tanaka asked in their first session. Marcus began listing obvious worries: losing the company, losing money, disappointing others. Tanaka shook his head. No, those are surface fears. What do you really fear? Silence. 1 minute. 2. 5. Finally, Marcus whispered, voice trembling, I'm afraid of being nobody, of being ordinary, of being forgettable. Tanaka nodded. Now we are touching the truth. Your entire life has been a race away from this feeling. All your success, your ambition, your achievements, they were armor. And when success disappeared, the fear returned because you never faced it. You only hid it. The samurai had a practice for this long before the Stoics made it famous. Memento mori, meditating daily on one's own death. They confronted the ultimate fear so that lesser fears lost all power. Lose money? You're going to die anyway. Lose status? You're going to die anyway. Fail publicly? You're going to die anyway. When you live with the awareness of mortality, you stop clinging to temporary things and start building what truly lasts. Legacy, character, impact. You don't have to become the next Tesla to be extraordinary. Changing the destiny of your family, being unforgettable to your children, uplifting your community. This is legacy too. Then Tanaka gave Marcus an exercise that felt extreme. Every morning, before anything else, sit in silence for 20 minutes and visualize your own end. Your body shutting down, life moving on without you, everything you built fading away. At first, Marcus felt disturbed, but Tanaka explained, you only find it depressing because you're running from it. A samurai doesn't run. He faces death until it loses its grip. When you face the void enough times, it stops ruling your life. Chapter 4: The Practice of Fire. The first week was torment. Each morning, Marcus forced himself to sit in silence and visualize his own end, and every morning his mind rebelled. This is unhealthy. You're wasting time. Get back to fixing the business. But he continued. By the second week, something subtle shifted. The fear didn't vanish, but its grip loosened. Not because he avoided it, but because he stared directly into it. And any fear you face long enough eventually loses the mythic power you once gave it. The anxiety about losing the company was still there, but compared to death, it suddenly felt small, manageable. The samurai understood this truth. You can't control feeling fear, but you can control whether fear controls you. Modern neuroscience backs this up. After 18 years of research, Stanford scientists discovered that repeated exposure to a fear, done safely, literally rewires the amygdala to react less. This is the same mechanism behind exposure therapy, but Tanaka wasn't done. You've faced physical annihilation, he said. Now face social annihilation. He introduced the second Bushido principle, Jin, benevolence through strength. But before true strength can emerge, you must kill your need for approval. The samurai learned from childhood to be indifferent to public opinion, not out of pride, but because a warrior who needs validation is easy to control. So Tanaka gave Marcus a new exercise. Do one publicly embarrassing act every week. Nothing harmful, just something that invited judgment. Week 1, wear wildly mismatched clothes. Week 2, Sing loudly on a crowded train. Week 3, dance alone in a busy square. Marcus resisted. This is ridiculous. How does this help my business? Tanaka didn't soften his words. You still believe your problem is the business. It isn't. Your problem is that you cannot exist without approval. You need people to think you're smart and successful, and that makes you weak, because when approval disappears, and it always does, you collapse. A samurai can lose everything and remain whole because his identity comes from within. He is not the sword, the armor, or the victory. He is the steel. Chapter 5. The Death of the Ego. Marcus did the first assignment with painful embarrassment. He stepped outside in a loud floral shirt, clashing striped pants, and a ridiculous hat. Every stare felt like a blade slicing into his ego. His mind screamed, "Everyone thinks you're an idiot. This is humiliating. Why are you doing this?" But he kept walking. 30 minutes later, a realization hit him. Nothing happened. No insults, no attacks. Most people didn't even care. And the few who did, their opinions had zero impact on his life. Week 2, he sang on a packed subway. The humiliation was brutal, but he noticed something surprising. The discomfort wasn't coming from others, it was coming from him. Passengers smiled, some filmed him, but no one tried to tear him apart. He stepped off the train completely unharmed. Week 3. He danced alone in a crowded square. And this time, something shifted. Not relief, not confidence. Freedom. Freedom from needing approval. Freedom to exist without permission. Freedom to be judged and remain whole. The samurai had a name for this. Mujo, impermanence. Everything passes. Approval is temporary. Disapproval is temporary. Success fades. Failure fades. The only thing that can become permanent is the spirit you forge. Chapter 6. The Steel Test. Marcus was beginning to change, but Tanaka warned him that the hardest lesson was still ahead. The third principle of Bushido was the most unforgiving. Gi, righteous action, no matter the cost. Tanaka lifted the katana once more. "Do you know the difference between iron and steel?" he asked. "Iron bends under pressure. Steel holds its shape. An iron spirit does the right thing only when it's comfortable. A steel spirit does the right thing especially when it's not." Then he looked Marcus in the eyes. "You have a decision to make about your business, and you've been running from it." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. For weeks, he had avoided what he knew was necessary. Firing his co-founder, his best friend since college. His friend had become unmotivated, unreliable, and was dragging the company down. But Marcus couldn't bring himself to confront him. "How do you cut loose someone who helped you build everything?" he thought. Tanaka didn't soften it. "You are choosing emotional comfort over righteousness. That is iron. Iron collapses when pressed. You are bending your integrity to avoid discomfort. Steel does not negotiate. Steel does what must be done." The samurai called this giri, duty above emotion. Not cruelty, not coldness. Just doing what is right, even if it burns. A true samurai would confront even his own lord if justice demanded it, knowing he might lose his life. Not because it was easy, because it was right. Marcus spent 3 days in agony. Every time he tried to schedule the meeting, excuses flooded in. Maybe he'll improve. Maybe I'm being harsh. Maybe I should wait. But on the 4th day, he remembered Tanaka's words. Steel doesn't negotiate. Steel holds its shape under pressure. Marcus finally picked up the phone and scheduled the meeting. Chapter 7. The Impossible Conversation. Firing his best friend was one of the hardest moments of Marcus's life. The conversation exploded with anger, blame, and betrayal. 12 years of friendship shattered in less than an hour. Marcus walked out feeling crushed, heartbroken, drained, and unsure whether he had made the right choice. That evening, when he entered the dojo, Tanaka greeted him with a single nod. "You feel the pain?" Tanaka asked. Marcus nodded. "Good," Tanaka said. "It means you still have a heart, but you acted anyway. That means you are developing a spirit of steel." Tanaka continued. "Iron avoids pain. Steel accepts pain as the price of integrity. Today you were forged. Today you learned you can do the things you once believed were impossible." The samurai understood this deeply. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in spite of it. Integrity isn't doing the right thing when it feels good, it's doing the right thing when it tears you apart. This is Hagane no Ishi, the will of steel, not the absence of feeling, but the mastery of action despite feeling everything. Chapter 8. Daily Practice. Heroic moments don't build an unshakable spirit. Daily discipline does. Tanaka introduced Marcus to the fourth principle of Bushido, Rei, respect through ritual. The samurai didn't rely on motivation, they relied on form. During tea preparation, Tanaka moved with slow, deliberate precision. "Do you know why rituals exist?" he asked. "Because form creates substance. Repeat the form long enough, and you become it." Samurai woke at the same time every day, trained the same way, followed the same sequence. Not because they felt like it, but because the way does not negotiate with feelings. Marcus had tried routines before, but quit whenever he didn't feel motivated. Tanaka laughed. "Motivation is irrelevant. Discipline is what builds steel." He then gave Marcus a strict form, 4:30 a.m. Wake up, no negotiation. 15 minutes, visualization. 100 wooden sword cuts. 3-minute cold shower. Breakfast made with full attention. Then work. "Do this for 100 days straight," Tanaka said. "No excuses. Sick, tired, traveling. The form continues." Marcus argued about flexibility. Tanaka cut him off. "You want steel or iron? Iron bends. Steel holds shape. You've spent 34 years bending. Where did it get you?" There is no perfect moment. There is only now. Most people negotiate themselves into failure. A will of steel says, "I execute, no matter what." The first week was war. At 4:30 a.m., his mind whispered, "You slept 5 hours. You need rest. One day won't hurt." But Marcus remembered, steel doesn't negotiate. Feet on the floor. Move. The cold showers were agony, but he realized the pain lasted only 3 minutes, while the regret of breaking discipline lasted all day. Then came the turning points. Day 7. He woke up 2 minutes before the alarm. Day 14. The once impossible sword cuts flowed naturally. Day 21. The mental battle vanished. He stopped negotiating. He simply did the form. A behavioral researcher from Oxford once said, "Discipline isn't a resource you burn, it's a muscle you strengthen." The samurai knew this centuries ago. Automate discipline, remove negotiation, and you free the mind to become unstoppable. Chapter 9. When the system collapses. On day 32, everything broke. Marcus was hit with a brutal flu, 39°C fever, body shaking, strength gone. At 4:30 a.m., the alarm rang, but this time he truly couldn't stand. His mind whispered, "Finally, a real excuse. Rest. No one will blame you." But then he remembered Tanaka's warning. Steel isn't tested when life is smooth. Steel is tested when everything collapses. Anyone can follow discipline on good days, but true steel shows itself on impossible days. Marcus couldn't do the full routine, not even close, but he refused to let the day become a zero. Instead of 100 sword cuts, he did 10 sitting down. Instead of a 3-minute cold shower, he splashed cold water on his face. Instead of 15 minutes of meditation, he gave 3 focused minutes. The form was not abandoned, only adjusted. And that changed everything, because the real danger isn't modifying the routine. The danger is breaking it. The moment you allow a full exception, your brain learns that 0 is acceptable, and 0 becomes the new normal. The samurai lived by a simple rule: practice can shrink, but practice never stops. Too many people live with an all-or-nothing mindset. If they can't do everything perfectly, they do nothing at all. But perfection is a trap. Execution is what changes your life. So remember the rule: 1 will always be greater than 0. If you can't study for 2 hours, study for 1. If you can't train for 1 hour, train for 30 minutes. If you can't do the full practice, do the smallest version possible, but never 0. Chapter 10. The Inner Storm. By day 50, Marcus faced a new challenge. His business was recovering. A new investor appeared. The team was performing. Everything seemed to be going right. And immediately, his mind whispered, "You don't need this discipline anymore. You've proven yourself. Relax." Tanaka called this the poison of success. More dangerous than failure because it is seductive. Failure is obvious. You know you must change. Success makes you think you can return to old habits. The samurai understood this. Victory is the moment of greatest danger. The blade that isn't sharpened eventually dulls. For 3 days, Marcus considered abandoning his routine, sleeping later, skipping sword practice, returning to comfort. But then he remembered why he started. Not for the business, not for recognition, for a spirit that cannot break, regardless of circumstances. Results didn't matter. The practice existed on its own. This is Hagane no Ishi, the will of steel. It doesn't depend on winning or losing. It is an unchanging constant. Chapter 11. The Moment of Truth. Day 73 tested Marcus like never before. The investor vanished. Another team member quit. And a call came. His father was hospitalized with a serious heart condition. No routine, no structure, total chaos. His mind offered the obvious excuse: "You can't practice now. Family comes first. Pick it up later." But Marcus had changed. He no longer negotiated. In the hospital hallway, he mimed sword cuts. In the bathroom, cold tap water splashed his face. Not perfect, but continuous. For the first time, he understood Tanaka's lesson. Practice doesn't serve circumstances. Circumstances serve practice. A samurai doesn't train for battle. He trains because he is a samurai. Identity is permanent. Chapter 12. The Silent Transformation. Day 100 arrived quietly. Marcus woke at 4:30 a.m., completed his practice, and moved through the day. Nothing flashy, but everything had changed. He was no longer the man who entered the dojo 100 days ago. Challenges remained, but he faced them calmly. No panic, no drama, just action. Tanaka spoke one last time. "Do you understand Hagane no Ishi?" Marcus replied, "It's not about not feeling. It's about acting correctly, no matter how you feel." Tanaka nodded. "Partially correct, but deeper. Look at the katana. Every cycle of heating and hammering removes impurities. Weakness disappears until only pure steel remains. These 100 days didn't make you strong. They removed your weaknesses. Fear of death, need for approval, avoidance of discomfort. They're gone. You haven't built a new spirit. You've revealed the one that was always there." Chapter 13. The True Meaning. Hagane no Ishi isn't about becoming something new. It's about removing everything that isn't you until only the essential remains. Samurai weren't superhuman. They were humans who eliminated fragility, unnecessary fear, and dependence on others. What remained was indestructible. Marcus realized that Bushido wasn't addition, it was subtraction. Less fear, less ego, less compromise, less weakness. Tanaka smiled. "Now, the work never ends. Strengthen your steel every day. There will always be more layers to remove, but after 100 days, you know you can. That certainty changes everything. 6 months later, Marcus's business collapsed completely. Yet, for the first time, he was unshaken. He had lost the business, but not himself. Steel is not the sword, nor the armor, nor the victory. It is steel, and steel does not break. 3 weeks later, he began a new project. Calm, deliberate, unstoppable. Visualization, training, cold showers, tea, not to save a business, but because it was who he had become. People noticed. "How are you so calm after losing everything?" "I was forged," he replied. Hagane no Ishi is not a destination. It's a relentless process of removing weakness, facing fear, and acting correctly under fire. It is brutal. It demands early mornings, confrontation with fear, and choosing what is right over what is comfortable. But in the end, you become steel, steel that cannot break. In a chaotic world, the only thing you can control is your spirit. The business may fail, people may betray, life may knock you down, but you get back up, you keep going. This is Bushido. This is Hagane no Ishi. This is a will of steel.